If you could just introduce yourself to us, and then you can go ahead and start telling a story.
Sure. My name is Debbie Reeder, and I wanted to talk about my mother who just passed, and I'm getting ready to go back to her memorial in Michigan. So it's an emotional time, and obviously my first Mother's Day without her. But what really comes to mind for all of us thinking back about her, and I will say that we didn't leave anything on the table. We all were, all the kids were very close to her, and we had a wonderful relationship. But what impressed me most is how she was throughout her lifetime with her children, but with other people in the community. We had a brother who was disabled, and one thing that she did, besides being just an incredible mom to us all, she was so compassionate. And there are countless, countless stories from people in the community and friends that I've had over the years. They didn't wait until she passed to tell me these stories, but I've been hearing them ever since I came to California, for over 30 years. I've been getting these reports from people. So, in a time when I think people struggle with making sure that we're accepting of others, that we are keeping equality and fair treatment of all human beings at the forefront of how we live, this is how she lived. So, because my brother was disabled, she was very much all about making sure that his needs were provided for and that anything she could do to make life better for people who were like my brother at a time when there was not as much focus on that as there should have been. She did those things, and she affected great change in the city where we lived, in the special school that he attended, and that had kind of a ripple effect, throughout the community. And I'm so proud of her. She was a musician. She wrote a lot of music, and at the core of that music were messages of peace and of kindness to others. And I want to share a real quick story, and there are a million of them, but we had a neighbor who, when he was very young, used to come to our house and play in the yard. And my mom had the windows open. It was a nice summer day, and she heard this boy saying something very disparaging, and it was kind of a bigoted statement. And she knew this boy and knew that he really was at his core not like that. And so she actually called him in the house and said, I just want to talk to you. And he said, am I in trouble? And she said, no, of course not, but I want to talk about what you said, and I want to challenge you with something. So she had a very long and loving talk with this boy, and that was many, many years ago. Now we fast forward to, he was a kid. Now he is an adult and almost in retirement years, and he sought out his birth family for the first time and found out that they were all from the South, and that they had some very narrow opinions of some things. When he introduced himself to the family for the first time, and he found out what they were like and who they were, he shared the story of my mother and how she sat him down and talked about loving others and about equality. And they've continued their dialogues now for the past year and a half. And not that he'll change everybody over or whatever, but these brothers that he didn't know he had have agreed to continue the dialogue with him and try to look at things differently. And he credited my mother, whose name was Joy, and she was aptly named Joyce Steifbergen. So that's the story I think about today, and she brought us up to be loving and caring and compassionate, and she lived that every day of her life. And that's one of 100 stories that I could tell. But I think my time's up, but I'm proud of her, and she lives on not just in me and not just in the family, but with so many people in the community, and it's gone out into other places by virtue of her love and compassion. So I'm very proud of you, Mom. I know you're well, and I hope you're listening.
Wow. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
That was a phenomenal, phenomenal story. I feel myself getting emotional.
Thanks for letting me share.
Of course.
It's very healing.
Yes, no, it's so heartwarming to hear just how compassionate, like you said, compassionate your mom was, and how she always kind of led with kindness, even when people might say things. She understands like there's a deeper why, and trying to figure out and correct that. So
She did, and
Yeah.
even when people would tease us or my brother because of who he was and the challenges that he had, she said it's just people who don't know him yet and don't understand, and it's our job to, introduce how wonderful he is into the world. So she said never stop doing that. So God bless her.
She sounds like a phenomenally impactful woman, and just like really community centered and driven. That
Yeah,
she sounds
she
like a
definitely
wonderful
she
person.
definitely was.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much for sharing.
thank
some
you. I
stories about
appreciate
joy.
it so much. Take care.
Yeah, thank